This is the PR Podcast, a show about how public relations helps you tell your story to the world. We talk with great PR practitioners who have the skills, creativity, and just plain savvy to get their clients noticed. Now here's your host, Jody Fisher.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the PR Podcast. I'm Jody Fisher. Thanks for joining us. Well, don't forget to check out our YouTube channel. That's a place where I post all of our episodes that we record and post on our podcast platforms on Apple, Spotify. You're probably listening on one of those right now. But if you want to watch our guests, in addition to listen to their wisdom, check us out on YouTube. Just search The PR Podcast on YouTube. You'll come up with our logo. That's that orange logo, the artwork that you see in your podcast platform. And you can watch the episodes as well as listen to them. Now, of course, like I say, I have a face built for radio, but our guests do not. And they're wonderful people to boot. So take a look at our YouTube channel. I also post some shorts there. Every week, we take little snippets of the PR Podcast. We post them across all the social platforms, including on YouTube Shorts. So all that to say, check us out on YouTube and enjoy watching your favorite episodes as well. And if you want to be a guest on the PR Podcast, make sure you hit us up on any of those social channels, or better yet, send me an email, jody@jodyfisherpr.com. Pitch yourself as a guest for the PR Podcast, and we'll see if we can get you on a future episode. Now on with our show for today. Rather than have a guest this week, I thought I would post a longer form of a talk that I gave to a local college class here that's taught by a friend of mine, Tim Scheld. Now, Tim is the former news director at WCBS Radio, the late great, they went off the air last year. Late great WCBS Radio, and it's a station where I was a reporter here in New York City. Love that station, love the time that I spent there, going on 30 years ago. But Tim is a professor now at Montclair State University in New Jersey, and he invited me very graciously to come in and talk to his communication students. Now, these are a mix of students who are they might be public relations majors, they might be artists, they might be actors, they might be getting into other forms of communication, radio, TV, newspaper. So it was a wide variety, I guess around maybe 10 or 15 students. But I talked with them about my impressions of what public relations is. It was a really great conversation. It was not a lecture. It was a great conversation back and forth. They asked me a lot of terrific questions. Really, really smart young people. I enjoyed working. Not working. I enjoyed speaking with them. I was thinking of Tim working. Tim and I never worked together, actually, even though I have a ton of respect for him and the work that he did. He was a reporter himself, radio reporter over the years for a number of different outlets. And so Tim and I went back and forth. You'll hear him off camera kind of asking questions. And I respond to them. And then the students will ask questions as well. So I'll play a bit of this. Hope you enjoy it. And then we'll sign out the show when we come back. So here's me, your host, at Montclair State University recently, talking with communication students. So hi guys, good morning. How are you? Nice to see you. I went to school at Fordham up in the Bronx. I went to school at Fordham because they had a radio station that I could walk into on the first day and be on the air. And that's not on, don't worry about it. That was the most important thing to me. I wanted to be a radio reporter. I wanted to be on the radio. And so looking at all the different colleges, I went up to Syracuse. I'll never forget going up to Syracuse, which was the preeminent communications school back in the 80s and the 90s. And having a senior at the radio station tell me, yeah, if you're really lucky, you'll get on the air in your senior year. I'm like, not doing that. So walked into Fordham 2 weeks after, my freshman year, 2 weeks in, I was on the air. I was sitting behind a microphone. I was writing copy. I was working in the newsroom, which was probably smaller than this room at the time. But I was on the radio, and I was on the radio for 4 years straight, every day, 5 days a week. It was a paid job to boot, which was really cool. And I was doing radio, and that's where I met Rich Lamb. And we went out on stories together, and he taught me about writing and how to tell a story and how to be evocative and how to really humanize the stories that we were covering, because these were about people. And that sort of set my career in motion. And graduated Fordham. My first job straight out, I got a job 2 weeks before I graduated at 1010 Winds. I was a desk assistant in the newsroom, so I'm pulling copy, and I'm the technology ancient compared to what you guys are working with. But I'm doing stuff in a newsroom, right? And I'm learning in a big city newsroom how to do the job the right way. And I think that's really important when you are getting started in any business, that you learn from the people who are at the top of their game, who are doing things the way they're supposed to be done. And you get that foundation under you, because that will serve you your entire career, your entire life. I was there for 9 months. When I caught a break, I was living with my parents. After graduating college, I'm living back in my parents' house, and I get a call at 12:30 in the morning, just after midnight, from the overnight editor at 1010 Winds. Hey, something just blew up in Edison. Go find out what it is. And he knew that I had a phone and I had a microphone and I was equipped and I could go out and report. It turned out that it was this 40-inch natural gas pipeline that came up from Texas that blew up in the middle of an apartment complex. And that was my break, right? And I was on the air at 1010 Winds, and I was doing live shots overnight on CNN, and just because I was the first guy there. That segues into a career of working at different radio stations, right? And now I'm a working reporter. And I eventually end up at WCBS Radio, and I was the Long Island reporter there, and I was doing city work on the weekends, taking every shift I possibly could. But again, putting in the work, putting in the hours, and being the thing I wanted to be. And didn't have to go to Idaho to do it like everybody told me I had to, and was really happy with that. I ended that radio career when I decided, for some strange reason, that I wanted more time to myself, that I didn't want to be living by the beeper, that I didn't want to be running somewhere every time we got a phone call when something blew up or something was on fire or whatever. And I figured, why not go into public relations? And now I work more hours than I ever did when I was in radio. That's the beginning of the career.
You got to be ahead of the game. You worked out. What was your first public relations job? Was it Rubenstein?
St. John's University.
Oh, it was St. John's. Okay.
Yeah. So I was at St. John's from '99 to '05 or '06, at a time where they were going through a lot of growth and a lot of building. And they wanted someone who had my background as a radio reporter, as someone in media, to be advancing their stories and doing that stuff. I went from there to Keyspan, which is now National Grid, which is a big energy company. Spent about a year there. And then I went to Rubenstein Communications in Manhattan, and I worked for Howard Rubenstein for about 10 years, 9 or 10 years. Doing lots of fun stuff. You talk about space shuttles or space. One of the campaigns that I worked on was bringing the Enterprise, the Space Shuttle Enterprise, to New York, to the Intrepid Sea Air and Space Museum, which is now just the Intrepid Museum. But getting to do tons of fun stuff. Larry Silverstein at the World Trade Center, Friends of the High Line, building that elevated park on the west side of Manhattan. Like I said, the Enterprise program. Doing really cool, not that guy, but the space we were watching before. Doing lots of fun, cool stuff. And we ran a bunch of social media campaigns. The social media was still kind of young at that point. We had to run a campaign to get NASA to give New York a space shuttle.
Right.
And so social media became a critical part of that, because that was sort of a grassroots way of getting at people and demonstrating that, hey, people want to see this in New York.
And your client in that particular case was the Intrepid?
It was the Intrepid, yeah.
Museum.
Yeah.
And they wanted to sort of, they were collecting assets to try and make that a destination. Is that what it was?
So I'll never forget the day I got a phone call from them, and it was this very rushed, excited, like something's on fire kind of voice. And they said, NASA's giving away the space shuttles. We need one. Okay, how do we do this? So we literally first had to mount a campaign to convince NASA that a space shuttle belonged in New York City. On the surface, we were like, New York doesn't have much of a connection. You got Grumman out on Long Island. They built the lunar lander that went to the moon and things like that. But then we find out that the Intrepid was actually one of the recovery vehicles for the Mercury missions. So astronauts had actually walked on the deck of that aircraft carrier. That was the thing that made it make sense for NASA. And then we had to demonstrate through publicity and social and everything else that people were actually really excited about this. We supported that with things like economic development studies, right? We had the New York City Tourism Board do a study saying how much money could a space shuttle in New York City generate. Then we took that information and we publicized that information. We got reporters to write about it, making a very public case for why a space shuttle belonged in New York City. And they ultimately got the shuttle, and then we actually got to bring it, which was a lot of fun.
We had a location in our radio station where the windows looked out at the Hudson River, and we watched the barge, right, bring it up the Hudson River to the Intrepid. It was super cool.
It was very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So you had no idea early on that you would have such a diverse career, just based on working at FUV for one thing, right?
Absolutely.
Who knew that?
Yeah. Oh, you can never predict what's going to happen to you, right? You can set out with a mission for what you want to accomplish in life, but man, the stuff that just comes along accidentally can be so much fun.
So what's the strategy to have yourself in a position to be able to see these opportunities? How did you see so far in advance that, or you didn't? You just went out on a limb and said, I really don't want to live by the beeper. I want to do something different and use the experience that I have. Is that what it was?
That's really what it was. Yeah, I leveraged the skills that I had, and I'm not unique. Thousands of people, right, make that jump from journalism into public relations or some type of communications career. And so, it seemed like a natural to me.
Before I get a little bit more deeper into your experience, can you help us frame the difference between public relations and communications? I know it's something that probably some people in the room have an idea about, but just this idea of...
I would love to. So, depending on who you talk to, public relations has a different definition, right? And most people, when they think of public relations, they think of media relations. They think of working with reporters, writing press releases, sending pitch ideas, getting news coverage, whether it's the newspaper, radio, TV, magazines, and now it's on lots of online, right? But it also, and then at the other end of the spectrum, you've got paid media, which is advertising, right? Whether it's, again, print, digital, broadcast. There's a lot of gray space in between. Social, website, newsletters, all other types of communications vehicles, and ones that we don't even know about right now, right? That are going to be invented 6 months from now. That's that gray area in between earned public, media relations, what we call earned media, because you roll up your sleeves and you earn it, you don't pay for it, and paid, which is advertising. To me, public relations encompasses everything except paid, because it falls under the big umbrella of communications and things that we can't buy, right? I go out and help my clients tell stories through vehicles and through avenues in ways that they can't buy it. So you can't buy a story in the newspaper. You can pay an influencer to do social media content, but you can't, or at least I don't know this, you can pay people to like your post, right? Maybe you can. Maybe you can. You guys should tell me. But the idea being is public relations. I see public relations as everything except advertising. Any way you can communicate with an audience, that is public relations. And it's also things like, I've been through lots of construction projects, government relations, community relations, there's the definition of public relations is talking to the publics, and the publics being defined as media, community, government, a couple others.
Do you ever work for a company where you help them with with their internal communications, we're not necessarily just public-facing stuff?
Yes is the short answer, but in my mind, there's no such thing anymore between internal and external communications. Because if it goes through an email server, it's eventually going to be external, right? And your internal stakeholders, your employees, your shareholders, anybody else who works inside of the organization should be your strongest supporters, should be your standard bearers, because they're the people who are going out and telling their friends. They're the people who go to the backyard barbecue and talking about it. They're the people who are in the shop, the grocery store, talking about the thing that they do. Where do you work? Oh, I do this. What do you do? They're telling your story for you, right? Before you even get to media, before you even get to a reporter, or before you even get to social media, you've got your employees and your internal stakeholders. So that messaging needs to be the strongest. But it should also be, in my mind, it should also be consistent. Right? You shouldn't tell one story to your employees and another one to your external audiences. Granted, it can be more detailed perhaps or more nuanced for the sake of the internal audience. This is going to happen on this date, that kind of stuff. But other than that, you've got to tell one consistent story, in my mind.
I really love that storytelling is sort of your business card. That's what you do. And I wondered if you could help sort of frame this idea that everything we do in our professional lives requires some sort of storytelling. Because I'll just take a couple of instances in here. A performer, you've got something that you're putting on that if you do a play and nobody knows it, it's there. What good is that? You've got a story to tell that needs to be put out there. You're a content creator. You want to figure out a way to tell your story so it runs it. You who walk in late, which is okay because I knew you were going to be late, have radio that you do. You put shows on that you want people to know about. Everybody has a story to push out, and no matter what you're doing in professional life. So almost everybody can use your expertise, no?
Absolutely. Look, you're all storytellers, right? Each one of you are writing your own story right now. Right? You're telling the stories of other people you run into, you work with, you hang out with. If you have, you have jobs, you have extracurricular activities. Who's doing what in the room? Let me, just throw some stuff out. Who's doing what in the room in terms of radio, TV, other things? Go ahead.
I'm a film major.
Film. Okay, go ahead. Just keep going. Radio. What else?
Film and acting.
Film and acting. Okay. Anybody else?
Film and writing.
Film and writing, okay.
I'm an entertainer and a writer.
Entertainer and writer, okay. So go.
Major. Well,
Which?
film major.
Film, okay. So you see lots of different disciplines, right? You're all writing your own story right now. You're all telling and when you run into other people, what do you do? Where do you go to school? What do you do in your spare time? You're telling your own individual all the time, right? We're all storytellers. And so the better you get at telling those stories, the more people understand about you and understand accurately about you, right? You never want someone to misunderstand who you are, what you do, why you get out of bed in the morning, what you believe, what you're studying, what you want to be in your career, right? You want to tell them what that is. That's what I do for my clients.
Yeah, I mean, you do it on a cover letter, you do it on your resume.
100%, yep. And you do it through your social, right? You do it, I mean, you guys have, this is good and bad, right? You have more communications vehicles at your disposal than any other time in human history. And you have more communications vehicles at your disposal, and you're under a larger microscope all the time, right? So everything that you do is documented. Everything you do is shareable as long as you want it to be, right? As long as you put it out there. When you're putting your story out there, you're sharing it with the world. So make sure that you're telling that compelling and clear and smart story about who you are and what you do.
How have you built a client base? How have you...
I just pay them off.
One and I, sorry. How have you, over the years, put clients together for you?
I think I rely heavily on my relationships. I'm old and I've been around.
Wow, he's old, one of mine.
But look, people hire people they know. People hire people they like. people hire who understand them, and who share their values, frankly. And so I rely heavily on the relationships that I have, the networks that I have, the places I've been, the people I've met, to say, hey, here's what I do, here's what I can do for you. Here's why you could benefit from what I do. You know, people, what's the sales thing that people don't buy? People buy from people they like. People do business with people they like, but they don't buy a thing, they buy a solution, right? They buy a thing that's going to solve their problem. So that's how I approach new business and new clients, in saying, okay, you've got this challenge. Here's how what I do can help you with that challenge, right? Maybe it's not going to fix it, but it's going to get you further along down that road to where you want to be. And in working especially with my nonprofit clients who need to make every dollar dance like it's 10 or are constantly raising money for their programs, they can use the press coverage that I get for them to turn that into donations, whether that's from private sources or from public sources. They can show the proof of their work, and that's what I like to say is PR is proof of what you do, of the people that you help, of the product that you sell, of the thing that you do in this world. So show people the proof by using the storytelling aspect of PR to get them interested and then help them engage with you in whatever way you need to engage. You want them to engage with you.
How important is planning? If I'm a client and I come to you and I say I could use some help, I want to get noticed, you know, how much time do you need to get noticed? Would you recommend that if you've got a big thing coming up, give me 6 months or?
6 months is a long time.
Yeah.
2 months is about right. You know, and that's working really fast, right? That's really putting the pedal to the floor. And of course, there's no right answer. I mean, it all depends on what you're doing. Of course, the more time, the better, right? The more time you have to plan, the better. The only time I tell people I can't help them is when they say, we're doing this thing tomorrow. And the reason I tell them that is because, and sometimes people don't think about this, I could send a pitch letter or a news release or whatever right now, right at this moment. But do media have enough time to react to what I'm giving them, to actually cover it in the way we want them to cover it, right? You know, if I send something today for tomorrow, that's considered spot news coverage. So that's basically the reporters wake up in the morning, they talk to the editors, they say, okay, I got nothing to do today, I have nothing planned, what's going on today, what are we going to cover? And they run down the list of priorities, and the top 3 or 4 or whoever it is, those assignments get the reporters, and everything else gets thrown out, or gets done in a different way. So giving yourself as much time as possible to reach out to media to get you on their calendars. It doesn't matter if you got something, oh, this is happening in 2 weeks. Great, tell them it's happening. You know, and whenever I tell these stories, I always think of like the spot news reporter. I think of the general assignment reporter. You've got other reporters who work on different timelines. And I guess that's the takeaway here is you've got to take everybody's calendar and everybody's timeline into account when you're asking them to do something for you. Because that's the other thing to remember about media is when you're pitching them a story, you're basically asking them for a favor. You're asking them to donate their time, their column inches, their air time, their whatever it is that they do to cover your thing. So 1, you've got to respect their timeline, and 2, you've got to give them all the information that they need to make a smart decision and to be able to cover it in the way that you hope that they will cover it. Right? You've got to be respectful of the person who's doing the job, the person you're asking to do the thing for you.
If anybody has a question during the whole session, just to throw it up.
Yeah, jump in and here, do the old TikTok thing where you hold it up to your mouth. It's a microphone.
Oh, I'll be damned.
You're recording the whole thing? Are you?
I am, yeah.
Yeah.
This is
I'll
a
cut it up
microphone?
later.
It's a microphone, and he's got.
So only that thing could hear it.
Well.
It's not broadcasting out to anywhere.
Oh, I was about to say, so how the hell do I know that I'm on?
Oh,
All right, cool.
Go ahead. I know.
Unless he screwed up. Sorry.
So what are your rates? Like if I were to hire you right now, what are your rates?
That's a great question. So my rates are very straightforward. I don't think I have them on the website, but I have categories on the website. I charge for a full-blown, it's on the
About?
PR services.
It's just you, or you got a team?
It's me, and I have a part-time person. I don't want to build an empire.
I understand.
And that's something very intentional that I'm doing. You know, many PR agencies, they can be 1,000 people, they can be 10,000 people. You know, I like being me with my one part-time person, who I'd love to turn into a full-time person because I think she's great, and I just want to, you know, get her up to full-time rate.
Okay.
But I don't manage employees well. and I'm a bit of a cowboy. And I chalk that up to me being a radio reporter, being out there on my own all the time with my phone and my microphone and going where I wanted and doing what I wanted. As long as I sent back my reports on time, everybody was good.
You and me got the same mindset.
There you go. Get it? Well, and you know what? That's funny. I was thinking about this on the drive too. Your experiences. I've been in-house at PR at companies, done in-house PR. I'll get back to your question about rates.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in-house and I've been at agencies. I love agencies, and I did not do well in corporate, because corporate, there's 17 forms to fill out for every project you want to do. Not me. I'm like Han Solo, Indiana Jones. I get the thing done and ask questions later.
That's right.
So agencies always work well for me, because agencies are about results. Agencies about get the thing done. Great, we want to be on the front page of XYZ. We need a story here. Great, I'll get that for you, no problem. Let's go. Let's start brainstorming. Let's get the information out. Let's get the reporter. Let's get it done. Rates, I've always taken a very straightforward, I don't want to step on anything. Very straightforward. Okay, so we got, right, full service. So that's my my corporate rate. $5,000 a month. Done. My nonprofits, I discount by 25% because I love my nonprofits. Project-based, I knock that down to, that's a very focused thing. It's like we're doing one thing. $2,500 a month for a minimum of 3 months. And small business startups is the same. Lots of companies, I've worked for lots of different companies. I've worked for accounts that charge $20,000 a month. My rates are really low comparatively to other agencies. And I like to tell people that you're getting my New York City experience, my New York City contacts. Any other agency in New York, I can do the same thing for you that any other agency in New York can do it for you, and I'll do it for you for a minimum of half. So.
Surprise question. So, boom. Here I am, content creator. I want to
Yeah.
get my startup. Would I hire you to help me get that startup?
If you want to get publicity for yourself, you would hire me, right? If you want to be in the paper, if you want to be on TV, if you want to be promoting your business,
Everything
you and
you
your
just said.
business, yeah, that you would be hiring me, yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. I would also recommend as a content creator, are you incorporated yet? Do you have your own business? No. Go out and start an S Corp tomorrow. Just go do it. I've only been running my own business for the last 2 years. I wish I'd done it 10 years ago. It's amazing, because then people don't hire you and pay you, and you get taxed on that money at your personal rate. You get, this is the business side of things. You get your, they pay your company, and then you pay yourself a salary, which can be this, right? You pay taxes at all. Go make an S Corp. Everybody who wants to go into, are you going to be a freelancer? You're going to have a side hustle? You're going to do any of that stuff, right, where you're going to hang out your own shingle, as opposed to going and, you know, being an employee of somebody else's company? Go make yourself an S Corp and have whoever hires you pay your corporation, not you personally. Go ahead.
Hi.
It's easy. It's like a couple $100. Like, it's so easy. Just go do it.
Hi. My name is Marilyn Diaz, and I am a senior. And my question is, how can I put myself out there? Because I want to be in the radio, but I am between news or entertainment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number one, radio. I was a radio reporter. Radio reporters, nothing against anybody. Radio reporters are the best people in the business. You got to tell a story in 2 sentences and in 37 seconds, right?
Yeah.
And you got to say your name at the end of it.
Yep.
And radio is so much fun, because you also have to describe everything. You don't have the benefit of pointing a camera at something. And so it's a really hard thing to do. Anything that doesn't rely on pictures is a really hard thing to do. In terms of radio, which is media in general is a contracting business. Radio is hyper contracting at this point, right? So it's a challenge getting a job in radio. I would say starting out, and look, everybody's going to have their own opinion on this. This would be mine. If you want to work in radio, go somewhere where someone's going to hire you, right? Get that foot in the door. Get that first job. Just get it. And work at a place where you have great teachers. I had the best teachers, and this is not station preference, right? I worked at 1010 Winds and I worked at CBS, right? They were sister stations. They're owned by the same company while I was working for them, right? Were they late 90s? Yeah. Or mid 90s? And so I got to learn from people who had made it to New York City, big market media. These were the best people in the business, right? I learned how to do things right from them. If you go other places, you're going to get people at different levels of experience, and some might be good and some might be horrible. Some might have bad habits. Never mind, you might run into jerks, but you run into jerks everywhere. Learn from the best. Learn from the people who know how to do it well and emulate them, right? Copy everything that they do. That will serve you the best in your career. Plus, you will have that stamp of having worked at that place. I never had to explain myself to anyone who ever hired me in radio because I had 1010 Winds and CBS on my resume. In fact, it's funny, I think Tony Gatto hired me at CBS. At CBS. And he called me in, you'll appreciate this. I was working at WRKL in Rockland County. Little teeny tiny radio station that was like built in a bunker, right? I don't even think it had heat in the winter time. You hung out in the newsroom in a sweater. I put in a tape. I forget who was retired. Someone was leaving. Was it Ellen? No, someone was leaving at CBS. Was it Ellen?
Probably, yeah.
Ellen was retiring, and so they had an opening. And I'm like, great. I'd never lived on Long Island, right? I'm originally from New Jersey. And I put in my demo tape. Tony calls me in for a meeting to tell me that he's not going to hire me. I was like, what? And I got down to my, it's like, you could have just told me that on the phone? And I got down to my car and I called him back and I said, really? You're not going to, like, why did you call me all the way in? Like, I had to leave work early. I had to come all the way in here. I had to pay for a parking, deck and everything. And he's like, okay, that impressed me. You got the job. I'm like, really? But they handed me my bag phone and my microphone, and I went out in the street. Learn from the best. That's the best advice I can give you. Get the job. Get the job wherever you can get the job. But make sure you align yourself with the best people. Gravitate to the best people because they will be good teachers and they will not hesitate to help you throughout your career. And that's really important too. I mean, the people I worked with at CBS, you and I actually never really worked. We didn't work together. No. But that's the brotherhood, the sisterhood of the radio station, right? Yeah. I mean, I met Paul Murnane when I was a desk assistant at. I met Rich Lamb when I was in college.
Now there is a fraternity of still is today of people out.
Those people help you.
Yeah, there is a fraternity
for sure.
of people. You got to take care of each other, kind of.
For sure.
We did a lot of work together when you were at St. John's and Einstein and beyond. So.
Yeah. Sending those stories out.
And I want to ask you about that first. Isaiah, did you have a question that you wanted to fill?
Go ahead. Come on, Isaiah.
Oh, no. I thought you was going to answer his question.
Yeah.
Oh, what? I did about the rates.
Oh, about the rates.
About the rates.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, you're good.
Was it something else?
No.
Was there something else?
Go
ahead, Isaiah.
Go ahead, Isaiah.
All right, cool.
I want to ask you, is it just people that's just coming out for a business, or do you work in, have you ever worked with people in, the music industry or stuff like that, or it was just...
So, no is the short answer.
Okay.
I believe in this. I try to not work at things and on projects that I know I'm going to suck at, right? I've never worked in music. I'm not going to pretend to know how to promote somebody in music. That's not to say that I'm not up for a challenge, but it's not fair of me to look at you, right, as an artist and say, sure, I can promote your record, or sure, I can promote your concert, or sure, I can. That's not fair to you. There are plenty of people out there who will do that. I'm not one of them.
Do you channel people to different
Of course,
colleagues?
you refer.
Yeah.
You absolutely because that makes you just as valuable as having done the job, right? Because if I say, okay, I can't do the thing you want me to do, but my friend can, because she does it all the time, right? And I send you over to her, that's great, but guess what? You also remember me. And 5 years from now, when you have the thing that I do, you're calling me. And that's life. That's how it works.
I wanted to ask you about how valuable was it, and is it, to have had that experience as a reporter, to understand the mindset of what reporters go through and how they have to contribute to the story pitching, because sometimes it's not up to the reporter, sometimes it's up to the editor or the producer or what have you. Anyway, your ability to know how stories get created, how the reporter pitches to their editors, how important is it for you to have known that? And one other tentacle to that is that not every story has to be the hard news story. That every news organization needs to, almost like a meal. You know, you want to have a vegetable, you want to have a starch, you want to have a protein. You got to have something, a collection of something to have. And so you, having been on the other side of that, kind of know all that, and you're able to like frame that. No.
100%. And I, like I said, I'm not unusual in having been a reporter that became a PR guy or a communications person. But that is, when you're working with media, a secret weapon, right? Knowing what they need to do on their end to do the thing you're asking them to do, I kind of said this before, is critical to success in what I do. Understanding that, first, like you said, getting a feel for what belongs where inside of any publication. And let's take a newspaper because it's the easiest one, right? You got the front section, it's got all the news, right? Then you probably have, depending, the business section, maybe then there's the weather, there's the entertainment, there's some other stuff, and there's the sports at the back, right? Knowing that, hey, I've got this story that has these elements, it belongs here or there or there. I had a story just last week. A client of mine, Ronald McDonald House, was dedicating a new room. They got $200,000 from the Islanders, and they redid a room to make it look like UBS Arena, and they put TVs in it and stuff, and it's for the families and the kids, right? And they were dedicating this room. It's a ribbon cutting ceremony. It's the most boring kind of PR story you can possibly do. But I look at it, and they're saying, okay, we want to get press attention. I don't pitch the news reporters, I pitch the sports guys. Why? Because it's the Islanders. Right? And all the sports guys came out, and everybody, Bruce Beck did it, News 12 did it on Long Island, the Newsday Sports Desk did it, right? If I tried to ram it down the throat of the news guys, they would be like, no, there's more important things going on. But all the sports guys were like, we're there. Understanding how the editors think, how the reporters think, how they do their jobs is critical to the success that I have with my clients.
You are, as evidenced by the camera and the mics in the room, very social, very savvy, very technically savvy. How important is that? What role does that play in the job that you do? And the other part of it is you're really an evangelist for this field. You're not just an evangelist for your business. You're an evangelist for your field. You provide daily messages for anybody that follows you on social media. So this morning I woke up and I saw on Instagram, Jody's message out there was, it's Monday. And every reporter needs a story on Monday. And they've had a long weekend, and they're like exhausted, their brain is gone, they watched something on TV yesterday, and maybe they watched the Masters and they're exhausted. They don't have great ideas. Monday is a perfect day to pick up the phone and say, hey, I got a good story if you're looking for one today. Yep. You are an evangelist.
Absolutely. And partially because I use social media to drum up business, right? To get my message out there, to connect with people who I might want to know me, who might one day hire me. But also because I really feel passionately about what I do. And I also feel that what I do and what thousands of other people like me do is insanely misunderstood. Pop culture has created this awful image of PR people. We're either liars, right? There's this word spin, right? It's like letters on like nails on a chalkboard for me. All right. We're not Sex and the City. We're not Scandal. We're not planting things in garbage cans or getting people into trouble. Most of us, there are a small number of people out there who might do that. But the vast majority of us, and I'm talking 99% of us, are out there working with clients the way I work with clients to help tell the stories that they want to tell, to connect with the audiences that they want to connect with, to engage in not only an information exchange, but then motivate them to action, whether it's buying a pair of blue jeans, supporting a nonprofit, going to a college, enrolling in a college. That business goal, and PR and storytelling to me drive those business goals because it exposes people to your message. And so social media is a fantastic way for people who want to get out there for a number of reasons. One, you get to bypass the gatekeepers in the media, right? You get to tell your story on your platform in your way, say whatever you want. And all you got to do is put a little effort into it, right? How many people update social media daily? Once a week, right? Okay, fine. I've taken a really deliberate, curated approach to my social media. I didn't before. Before it used to be like pictures of my kids and what I had for lunch and all that, right? And then I go, nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares what I did today, right? But if I hone in on, okay, here's what I do. If I use my social media for my business, not only for business purposes, but just to also create a personality for me online and say, okay, here's who I am. Here's what I do. Here's what I believe. And I get to have fun with it. It's not that I'm doing academic, public relations talk all day. I'm having fun with it. That creates an image of me, and people start to understand who I am, at least in this way. And so any other organization or any other individual has the opportunity to do that same thing. You just need to be deliberate about it. You need to sit back for a minute and look at the opportunity that you have, the platforms that you want to use, and say, how do I use this to my advantage? And then how do I deliberately and regularly create content that reinforces that message that I'm trying to put out there?
What skills do I need in the modern day public relations field to be successful in not necessarily working in the field, but to tell my story? If I work for a not-for-profit, if I've got a show to put on, if I've got a content creative thing that I want to, what skills should I be working on?
The first thing I think that PR people are, before we are writers or storytellers or anything else, we are counselors. And the thing that I do the most with my clients is when they're bringing me an idea, they're saying, we have this thing, we want to do something with this thing. My first job is to say, okay, here's how this can play out, and give them different scenarios. If you do this, it's going to look like this. If we do that, it could look like that. And then we collectively decide the approach that we want to take, right? If we want to do media or don't want to do media, if we want to make it a press release as opposed to an event, if we want to put social media on it, if we want to get the word out well in advance because it's an event that people want to come to. We take all that stuff into account, and we're counselors on how this could play out, and we're strategists. We also fall back on the phrase that my old boss Howard Rubenstein used to have on his desk, which is, well, I had two. One was from Mark Twain, if you always tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything, and he famously never took notes in meetings. The other one is that good press follows good work. Good press follows good action, right? People don't write about you just because you woke up, right? People don't write about you doing a thing that 1,000 other people can do. They write about the stuff that's unusual, that's interesting, that's different, right? So you need to find those things inside of the stories that you want to tell And that's what's going to get not just reporters, but people interested in you. You want to tell the stories about what makes you different from anyone else. And that's all on the counselor side of the ledger before we even get to the technical execution of how you tell your story and what you do and the people you reach out to. So to me, skills, counselor is number one, writer is number two, the communicator of information. And big picture writer, whether you're filming a social media video, right? Whether you're writing a song, whether you're doing film or you're acting or whatever that thing is that you're doing, being able to communicate what you want people to know through that thing that the mechanism that you're delivering it to them in, that's really important too. And we can talk about AI if you want, but.
Yeah, do you use it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with using AI. People frown on writers using AI. I use it to write a first draft of everything. If I've got to write an opinion piece, if I need to write a pitch letter, a news release, whatever, ChatGPT, that gives me a first draft in 10 seconds. And then I can take that and I can write it the way I want to write it. But I don't have to sit there and labor over every word. That is mostly repetitive anyway, right? If you've written one news release, you've probably written most of them. So let the computer do the repetitive work, and I'll expend my brain power on what's really important, which is putting the really critical, interesting, and unique information into that news release.
Where did you learn how to do the prompting for
You know, YouTube,
yeah.
Google. I mean, we have all of the information in all of humanity in our phones, right?
Sure.
Any question you could possibly think of is right in the palm of your hand. For the first time in human existence. So you can learn how to use the stuff. I heard someone say, and I agree with it, that AI is not going to take people's jobs. It's just going to take the jobs of the people who don't know how to use AI, right? The biggest hurdle about AI, to me, is understanding how to talk to it. Ask it the right questions so that it gives you back the thing that you're looking for. I mean, have any of you ever tried to use AI or ChatGPT to draw a picture? They give me an image, right? It can come out with like 4 heads and 27 fingers and stuff. It looks ridiculous, right? Because you didn't understand how to ask the right question, right? Once you learn how to do that, then you get the right result. It's the same as I'm a weekend DIYer, right? So I have all my tools in my garage and stuff. It's like knowing how to use a circular saw or a drill or any other tool, right? ChatGPT AI is a tool that people use to create a result. A carpenter uses a tool to build a house or to fix the plumbing in your apartment or whatever. Understanding how to use these tools is critical, and the people who don't understand how to use these tools, those are the people who are going to get eliminated.
Crisis. How much of your work involves people picking up the phone and say, Jody, I'm in a shitload of trouble. Can you help me out?
Not a ton.
Okay.
Crisis is built into everything that I do. In other words, if one of my clients has a crisis, I will handle that for them. I don't break out crisis as part of my practice.
Plenty of people do. Right?
There are people who live, eat, sleep, and breathe it. And that would be going back to the reporter days of, oh my God, something's on fire. Sorry, I can't have dinner with you guys. I got to go to the office and do this thing. And I just don't want to do that. Crisis, I was about to say something and I was going to disprove myself. Let's put it this way. We're living in a very chaotic time. And I think people are manufacturing crises every day as a way of getting what they want. And I'll just leave it at that. Safeguarding yourself from crisis is really important.
Is it part of the counsel I'm glad you said that, because I was wondering, as you said, as a counselor, is it part of that initial conversation with your clients that you have to sit around and say, hey, is there a downside to anything that we're involved in here?
That's part of what we do as PR people. And I get in trouble with my wife all the time because, my job in my professional life is envisioning the worst case scenario. Like, what is the car going off the cliff? Let's prepare for that. And that, because that 9 times out of 10 never happens, right? But we're prepared for it. And now we can do the thing we really want to do. So always being prepared for crisis is really good. But you can avoid 99% of crisis by just doing good work. And that goes back to the counselor, making the right decisions, not being an asshole, right? When you look at something, you're going to make a decision like, well, that's probably going to get us into trouble. Well, don't do it, right? It's so easy to avoid crisis. Every once in a while, it's going to come around. So then you rely on the people within your organization. And that's another thing that I talk about with clients with crisis. And another reason why I think that people should be proactively engaged in PR, and this is not just me saying, oh, hire me, pay me money. Everybody who has a public-facing image, which is all of us, should be engaged in some level of positive, proactive PR, positive, proactive storytelling, telling people out in the world what you want them to know about you, right? I've done this, I've done that. And think about your resume, right? I've done this, here I achieved this, I won this award, right? These are my relationships, these are the people I know, these are the people I hang out with, here's the people I've worked for. All that kind of stuff collectively defines you, right? And what I do is I go out and tell stories for my clients, for these organizations, and I get them that press coverage that ends up on Google. So when you Google them, this story comes up, that story comes up. They do this work, they won this award, or they achieved this thing, all this good stuff. And then this crisis erupts. And people go, oh, problem. But then they Google and they go, oh, well, they got this, oh, they do some really good work, okay. All right, that shifts the reporter's perception, in my mind, of who you are and what you're doing. And it will inform the way they cover that crisis moment about a client. Now, if someone isn't engaged in public relations and in storytelling and in defining their public image, what happens? The crisis happens, they Google, and there's nothing. There's a blank page. So these guys must be huge pieces of shit, right? That's why I think everybody needs to be involved in some form of proactive, positive storytelling. Tell the world who you are. Tell the world what you do. Define who you are and be in control of your public image, right? And inform, because everything, like you can Google any one of your names, right? Have you ever Googled your own name? Yeah. What comes up? Everything. Right, but what sites come up?
Facebook.
Facebook, social media, university, right?
What is it?
Right? What else?
Yeah.
You had an article, right? You had a news article, right? LinkedIn. What else? LinkedIn comes up all the time, right?
The stalker pages.
And the stalker page. But that's all the stuff you guys put out there, right? Right? That's all the stuff you guys have control of. And think about it, you're not even putting out press releases yet. You're not even getting news, with the exception, congratulations. But you're not even seeking news coverage for yourselves yet, and you already have a public profile, right? So now, let's say something awful were to happen, right? Knock on wood. and a reporter were to call up your family or you, right? What are they going to do? They're going to Google and they're going to see all that stuff. If they see, oh, you've done this thing and that thing, and oh, LinkedIn's nice and filled out, and oh, there's no keg stand pictures on Instagram and all that kind of stuff, right? You're cool. But if you look like a POS on your social media feed, they're going to take you to town. Why? Because it's a good story. That's it.
So, in that vein, do you recommend to your clients that they have a pretty good web presence and populate it and keep it up so that in the event that somebody does go searching for this brand that they may have heard nothing about, that there is something to find? That's kind of what you're saying as well.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with your social, right? And this is the way I explained it to my 16-year-old son, who is going to have a giant Woodstock event in my backyard on Wednesday because it's his 16th birthday. Oh boy. So he's a jazz guitar player, and he's bringing over all his friends, and he's got 5 different acts, and I'm going to call up my neighbors and I'm going to send them, I don't know, money or something. But he's out there with social media, right? I mean, people know a degree of stuff about him. He's only 16 years old, but he's got all of his jazz stuff on his, and all of his music stuff on his social. You know, and it used to be when he was starting out with it, it was just like random pictures, right? And now it's become this profile, maybe because he's watching my TikToks, I don't know. But it's become this, hey, here's who I am. And that's what you guys should be doing with all of your social. Use it as a portfolio. You don't even have to start your own website, right? You don't have to create this with a big head. Even though this is super cheap. It's $20 for a domain and $12 a month for a silly website. Just clean up your social. Thank you, I appreciate it. I have a really good photographer.
It's clean but I mean, it's what you want.
Clean up your social. Make your LinkedIn what you want it to be. And then choose one other platform that gives you personality, right? Instagram is awesome. TikTok, if you want to do videos, fine. But Instagram is super easy.
I was just going to say that as soon as I learned that when you're getting hired or you're in college, so everybody's looking at you, you think they aren't, but they're really looking at you.
Yeah.
So the first
Do you have that
thing
microphone, by the way?
Yeah, right here.
Bring it on. Go ahead, just hold it.
So the first thing that I did was to go on my social and clean everything.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, you just disappear. No, I didn't. I am making sure that I have a job when I graduate. Because they're really sensible, and older people view this generation, to be more specific, my generation, the glass generation, that everything bothers us, and we're just not, we just want to have everything, and apparently that's bad. So I just took everything that I seen. I called my 30-year-old something cousin, and I was like, tell me what I should be taking out. She literally told me to take everything out. And I was like, okay. So when you go to my Instagram, all the things that you see it is that I'm in the radio, I'm a co-host for 2 other radio stations, and that I do this and that. But personally, I like it. I didn't like it at the beginning, but I understand why it should be like that.
Yep.
And now it looks more decent than it was.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. You got some behind the scenes stuff too, like you behind the mic and stuff like that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. That tells a story better than a resume even could. Right?
Yeah.
You send the resume and then people look, and plus you could even, if you wanted to, once you get like that, let's take the Instagram example, you get that Instagram nice and shiny, right? It's got all the pictures that you really want. It shows you in action, shows you what you've been doing. You pop that Instagram right at the top of your resume.
Every time.
And now people go and they find it. Instead of them finding it on their own, there's another thing reporters love is finding shit on their own.
Yeah.
Right? That makes it more of a story. And I'm not knocking reporters. I used to be a reporter. I can say these things. You put the Instagram at the top of your resume, people are like, oh, she's proud of her Instagram. Let's check it out. Click. Wow, look at her. She's working in the radio station. She's behind the mic. She's doing stuff. All right, let's bring her in for an interview.
Every time I send my
and that's
resume,
how fast the decisions get made too, by the way, right?
So every time I send my resume, I also send my my reel with it, with all the work. Because as a communications and media, yeah, you're reading, but they don't want to read. They want to see.
Yep.
Because people are lazy, so I'm just making it comfortable for them to want to open my stuff.
100%. So you've got like a demo, what we used to call a demo tape or a reel, right? But you've got. So it's digital, right? Where is it sitting? SoundCloud? Where's it sitting?
In my phone.
In your phone. But can people click from your resume to go listen to it?
Every time I send my resume, I also attach it to it.
You attach. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. That's great.
Yeah.
This is the PR guy who doesn't like to send attachments because you never know what email filters do to attachments, right? So what I would do is I would take that and host it somewhere, whether it's YouTube, make it an Instagram post,
I was thinking of
put
like
it somewhere else and make it a link inside of your resume.
Okay.
I never send, as an example, when I send a press release, I'll go out to an event, right? I did this just this weekend. I do this all the time. And I took that rig, right? And I go and I function as a reporter. And I interview my client, and I get some sound bites, and I get some B-roll. Everybody know what B-roll is?
Yeah.
Okay. And I package all that up, and I stick it in a Google folder. And then my news release has a link to that Google folder, and I tell them what's in it with all the identifying information. They can click, they can go over the folder, they can pull all that video down on that end, and they can use it. Same thing with the photo. I put it in a folder and I send the link. I don't use the attachments because you never know what a corporate email server is going to do. They might kick attachments into spam. So I would recommend putting it as links. But use your social media. You're going to use your LinkedIn, so why not use something else that shows you in action?
I barely
Totally
post
cool.
in like LinkedIn.
That's okay, but you have it have it cleaned up, right?
Yes.
So it looks good. Great. And
Everything that I do
you got a
is
photo, not like the gray
No,
avatar.
yeah,
Okay,
everything.
good. That's
Yeah.
like does anybody follow anybody with like the gray avatar and
I
not
think it's
like
the whole
somebody's
spam.
picture? Go ahead. Did you have a question?
Sure did.
Yeah, go.
How you doing?
What's
It's
your name,
Carnival
by the way?
again. Carnival.
What is it?
I'm fucking with you. It's Vincent.
Vincent,
But my
okay.
show name's gonna be Carnival.
I thought you said Carnival.
Creator name is Carnival.
Oh, that's cool.
Look
okay.
out for me.
All right, I'll find you.
Anyway, I
Coming
say
up
that all
for
to
your
say.
presentation next week, so
Yeah, I'm excited. I hope you like it.
I will.
Anyway, I say that all to say. Picture it. I'm a comedian. Listen, I'm a comedian. Picture it. Do I call you to help me broadcast myself? Would I call a PR guy?
My hesitation is driving me towards not yet.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I thought of was an agent, because you want someone who's going to book you for gigs.
Right.
If you're a performer,
Right.
if you're not booking yourself, you want someone booking you for you. Right?
That's fine,
Because that's
yeah.
how you make money,
Mhm.
and that's how you get more gigs, and that's how you get out there and you get exposure and you learn and you perfect your craft.
Right.
Once you've got your legs under you a little bit, plus you can be promoting yourself through your social and all kinds
Of
of free
course.
ways, right? So that you don't need to spend money on a guy like me yet. Once you get to a place where things are clicking and you're making some bread, right, and you've got enough money to spend on me or on me, and still have money for everything else, then you hire a me. But I would hesitate to hire a me up front. I think you want to be perfecting your craft,
Okay.
making money at perfecting your craft, and building your public profile. That includes what people think of you as an act. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. But one day you might, sure.
Yeah, I was
But
just.
you know what? Your
not-
agent will look at you that day and say, hey, you need a PR guy.
Okay, and then I call you.
And then you call me.
Yeah, 'cause you-
And I'll say, I don't do entertainment, but I have a friend who does.
You don't do entertainment.
I don't do entertainment, no. No, I don't do entertainment at that level. I have some hospitality clients and things like that, but they're appropriate to my contacts. I took them on because I said, oh, I can do this. Even though you're a restaurant, as an example. I don't really do food, but as a restaurant, what they wanted to accomplish, I knew I could do. So I took them on.
Okay.
But as like entertainer, like I would never pretend to rep an entertainer. I'm out of my depth.
I
Okay.
always loved, I think we've told it the last time you did a class, the event that you put together related to the Barbie movie. Could you?
Oh, yeah.
Would you tell that story? The sort of really what it was?
So that all right. So was
So
it?
sometimes what your business is about is riding the wave of,
Looking for opportunities.
Yeah, looking
Looking for opportunities. Absolutely. So, all right. So last summer before, Barbie. Everything was Barbie, right? You couldn't walk 5 feet without seeing something about Barbie. The most amazing marketing operation in the history of man, as far as I'm concerned. Everything was Barbie. There was a tie-in everywhere. She was on oranges, like it was everywhere. I work for a nursing home. It was one of my clients. It actually was my first client going back to 8 years ago. And when I first signed up with them, it was, oh, it's going to be cute little old lady stories, right? They're going to be, they're crocheting or whatever they do in the nursing home, blah, blah, blah. And then COVID hits. And they have some real serious problems. They actually lost 60 people to COVID. And Governor Cuomo starts lying about the numbers. And we're giving numbers to reporters that don't match the governor's numbers, and we have to stand up and say the governor's wrong. And we picked a fight with the governor, and that was the first thing that caught him in that lie. And the rest is history. And now he's going to be the New York City mayor. Insane. But that's not what you asked about. So here comes Barbie. And they're always looking to do, the nursing home is always looking to do events. Can we do an event that shows that we're not this, stodgy old, mothballed nursing home, that people can be confident sending mom or dad here, right? That we do fun things, that, this is not the nursing home of media, right? In the same way that media misrepresent PR people. So here comes Barbie, and we're like, why don't we do like a Barbie fest? Why don't we have like all the 70 and 80 and 90 and 100-year-olds at this and do like a Barbie carnival, right? And the recreational people just take this and run with it. They made like a Barbie box, and they had a Ferris wheel, and they had pink cotton candy, and they got their nails done, and they got, right? So they did all these activities, which we were then able to take and promote through media and say, look at all, the nursing home is doing Barbie Fest. And I tell you, we got like 7 cameras there, like everybody wanted to come to cover the little old men and ladies having fun at Barbie Fest. And it, like, to your point, rode a wave. Everyone was reporting Barbie stories. So we localized the Barbie phenomenon inside of this client. And we had a lot of fun doing it. And the most important thing about that is something else I always tell my clients. Don't do media for media's sake. Don't create something so you can get press for it. Do the thing that is authentically you. And I think that's something that gets lost in people who are pursuing media coverage, is that they'll do something, the old standby is, let's have a press conference. Nobody likes press conferences. Nobody comes to press conferences. Unless you're a politician and that's the only, and you're going to do a thing, nobody comes to press conferences. They're boring. Plus, they can cover it from their desk. Send me the press release. I'll write about it if I think it's important enough. I'll get you on the phone for an interview if I think it's important enough. I don't need to come out to your thing, so you can stand behind a podium and do this. See this? This is boring white guy, right? Nobody wants that. Do things that are authentically you. And that Barbie event was something that was authentically them. They had that event. Even if no press showed up, they still would have had the event. They still would have done a fun thing for their community. And that's what makes it authentic. And authentic is what gets reporters interested. All right, so hope you enjoyed that. Thanks so much for entertaining me. We'll come back next week with a brand new guest. For now, thanks for listening. Please remember to subscribe to the show, connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at The PR Podcast, and send us a question or a comment. Our intro is by Christopher Apple. You can find him and his fantastic photography on Instagram at Christopher_APPOLDT. Check him out there and hire him for all your photography needs. You can find me online at Jody Fisher on all the socials and on the web at jodyfisherpr.com. We'll see you next time on the PR Podcast.